All right, we're going to dive into a story from inside a Taiwanese middle school. A story that, frankly, officials would probably rather you didn't see. It's about a classroom that fell into chaos and the truly desperate and forbidden solution the parents cooked up when the system just completely failed them.
And the person who saw all this happen puts it right here, right at the start. They make it super clear that we're looking at a hidden reality. This isn't about what's in the rule book. It's about an unofficial system born out of sheer desperation.
So, you might be asking, how did a classroom get so out of control in the first place? Well, it all started with a new law. A law that was actually meant to protect students, but it ended up, you could say, paralyzing their teachers.
You see, these new regulations created what's basically a chilling effect. All of a sudden, any little attempt to discipline a student could just unleash this bureaucratic nightmare on a teacher. We're talking endless meetings, stacks of reports, official reviews. It was just easier and safer for their careers to do nothing. So an entire generation of teachers became afraid to manage their own classrooms.
And with zero consequences, what do you think happened? Total classroom chaos. Students were openly defiant. It became pretty much impossible for teachers to even get through a lesson. I mean, it got so bad that one teacher, just completely defeated, literally got up and walked out in the middle of class. The whole learning environment had just collapsed.
So, with the teachers' hands tied and the school basically paralyzed, the whole mess fell into the laps of the one group who had no choice but to step in, the parents.
After who knows how many worried meetings, they came up with a pretty radical solution. They decided to create a patrol schedule and physically put a parent inside the classroom every single day. This wasn't just volunteering, this was a full-on intervention. Just a desperate move to try and get some order back so their kids could actually learn something. And they figured out pretty quickly that yelling or threats, totally useless. The only thing that consistently worked was, well, rewards. They even gave their strategy a nickname, the Santa Claus Plan. The deal was simple. If the class behaved, everyone got a reward, usually some kind of snack or a drink. But this is where the Santa Claus Plan gets really, really complicated. Because the rewards that actually worked weren't just any old treats. Nope. They were part of a very specific and, as it turns out, forbidden transaction. So get this. The author describes a parent trying to do the right thing, handing out healthier, sugar-free drinks. A defiant student takes one, accidentally drops it on the floor, and just smirks. Oops, my hand slipped. But the second a parent promises a sugary drink, suddenly the classroom is perfectly behaved. The deal was crystal clear. No sugar, no order. And here's the kicker. The one and only tool that actually worked, these sugary drinks, was explicitly banned on school grounds. So the parents' only way to create order was to literally break the rules. It put everyone in a totally impossible spot. Now, this wasn't some tiny secret kept by a handful of parents. For this whole system to work, it had to become this conspiracy of silence that involved the entire school community.
And just how big was this conspiracy? Well, according to the author, this wasn't just happening in one or two problem classes. It was happening in nearly a third of them. Think about that for a second. Almost 30% of the classrooms in this school couldn't function without parents literally smuggling in contraband to keep the peace. This wasn't an isolated issue. It was a huge systemic failure that the school had to hide. So what you end up with is this unspoken agreement. The parents sneak in the banned drinks to keep their fragile peace going, and the school administration, they just look the other way. And really, they had to. If the Education Bureau ever found out, the parents would be kicked off campus, the chaos would come right back, and you know the teachers would take the fall. So it was just better for everyone to pretend it wasn't happening.
So this sweet solution, it may have bought some quiet time in the classroom, but the author asks a pretty chilling question. What's the long-term cost of teaching kids that good behavior is something you have to pay for?
Yeah, the author is deeply worried about what happens next. He sarcastically calls these students excellent political material because they've learned how to smile and apologize while just getting whatever they want. But the bigger fear? What happens when these kids join the workforce? He makes this grim joke that they might be the kind of people to smash a client's computer chips at a huge company like TSMC if they get upset.
But despite all those worries, the parents feel completely trapped. They know it's not a great solution. They know it's teaching a questionable lesson. But from their perspective, smuggling in sugary drinks is the only thing standing between their kids getting an education and another day of absolute chaos.
And so the author doesn't end with an answer. He ends with a plea. A question, really, that he poses to all of us. Smart people, can you help think of a better way? And it just leaves you wondering. When the official rules create a reality that just doesn't work, what does a real solution even look like?